My name is Bill Batchelder, and I've been involved in public service since 1967. And I would have to say that as time has gone past, these campaigns have become dirtier and dirtier, and the people who are engaging in those dirty attacks on people more and more are taking the posture that, golly, they don't know what's going on. Remind me of the piano player in the House of Ill Repute who doesn't know what's going on upstairs. They very well do know what's going on. They very well are part of this. When I went out to recruit candidates this year, and I spent quite a bit of time in the field, because a lot of people who would have been great members of the General Assembly said to me, Bill, I'd like to help. I agree that this state is in bad trouble. But I have to tell you, I've got a wife and kids. I've got a small business. I've got all kinds of reasons not to want to have my name smeared up one side of my district and down the other by people whose sole goal is to keep control of the House of Representatives. It's a sad time in public service. There was a time when if something like this were done, whether it were done by outsiders or whoever, the candidate would have said, I don't want any part of that. And I think we know what we mean by that. I have here in front of me today the mailer sent out in Representative Schnitzler's district. He's one of our harder working members. He's the ranking member on the Committee on Public Utilities, a very important committee. Here's the front of it. It says there's a rat in the State House. They're not speaking about the genus rat. They're speaking about Mr. Schnitzler. And of course this was sent out all across his district, and obviously his children saw it and heard about it at school and so forth. He obviously has not done any of the things that are listed here. These things are all made up lies that have been used to smear him, to try to induce the people in his district to vote against him because they would believe the lies. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not acceptable in our system. He, they indicate, has tried to eliminate 40% of state government. That is probably the dumbest thing anybody could have said. We're trying to preserve state government in the face of an administration that has run an $8 billion deficit, has done everything but burn down the State House in their effort to keep from being responsible for what's going on in this state. We have 400,000 people out of work in this state because of this administration. Ladies and gentlemen, let's not talk about rats in the State House lest there be confusion as to who is who. Let's rather deal with the issues that are in front of this state, the challenges that we face, the difficulties that the people of this state face. Let's not lie about people. I understand that if you tell the truth about some people, they call it giving them hell. Well, the reason for that is because of their background, because of what they've done here in the State House, because of how this state has been damaged by those who are, quote, responsible, unquote. You have seen and have in your possession Matt Carroll mailer here having to do with British Petroleum. Beyond me, completely beyond me. How in God's name can you blame a person who's running for state representative for what went on in the Gulf of Mexico? How about taking the blame to the people in the federal government who are responsible for the regulatory structure of what goes on in the Gulf of Mexico and not worry about a guy living in Columbus, Ohio? Ridiculous. This nation, this state, individual cities, villages, and townships across it face challenges unprecedented since the Great Depression. The answer to those challenges is not to smear people. It's to discuss opportunities that exist here potentially, to discuss remedies for the difficulties that we face, and at the end of the day, not to run around like fascists handing out this kind of literature, but rather to discuss what is actually before us, to discuss what we have to do to fix Ohio, to discuss how we go about running campaigns which will be informative and attract the very best possible candidates, not smear people. I hope the opposition will find it in their hearts and perhaps even in their heads, that may be a stretch, to quit this kind of thing. Our polling is pretty clear on it. The people of Ohio have had a bellyful of this kind of campaigning. And of course, the governor spent $3 million on negative campaigns against the Republican candidate, and he moved the dial up 1%. I'm really happy about that. That shows the people in this state want good government, not nasty campaigns. We'll be happy to respond to questions. You will never see one damn thing like this coming out. You will see literature which discusses how people voted in the last session of the General Assembly. That's public business. This is excrement.
I know that I believe there's a couple of your candidates who are facing this 40% government cut issue, and it relates to House Bill 400.
Sure.
Explain to people if you support House Bill 400 and you want to eliminate the income tax in 10 years, why is it wrong to say you want to eliminate 40% of state funds? Because that is 40% is roughly what the income tax makes up of the state GRL.
House Bill 400 is based on a legislative piece that was perfected by Jimmy Petro when he was state auditor, and your paper was kind enough to support it. What has happened in the interim is that obviously this state has changed. A state that was once prosperous is now in serious difficulty. That particular piece of legislation obviously should have been heard. We should have discussed and debated. That's what legislative bodies do. And it seems to me that it would have been appropriate even to have enough sessions in the House of Representatives during this last 2 years that we would have taken up those kinds of issues. Unfortunately, as you are aware, we did not have 50% of the session days that were called for. This has been the most dilatory legislature in the history of Ohio.
I'm sorry, just to make clear, are you talking about the government restructuring bill, or are you talking about the income? I was talking about the income tax bill.
The income tax bill obviously requires us to do what we're talking about in the Republican campaign. Increase jobs, draw new companies to Ohio, provide for the expansion of existing companies, and most important, obviously, get our young people trained and educated so that they will attract business and industry and be here to create jobs. That is not our present situation. That bill cannot be adopted at the present time, and the reason that it is introduced is to show what could happen if we actually had Ohio growing again. 4 years ago, 50% of the new jobs in this country were created in the state of Texas. We better be doing more of what Texas is doing and a lot less of what Ohio has been doing. And that would include, of course, as you're aware, the fact that Texas has no income tax. They do have a budget surplus.